Guys, before we get into today's Tech Tip Tuesday, I want to show you a new thing that we developed for Motion Raceworks, and that's our new text platform. It basically allows you to go around the phone, hold music, hitting the queue, waiting, all that. You can simply add our number to your phone, text us, and you get the same reps with a quicker response. They can do everything from give you tech help to taking your orders, giving you product questions, and everything in between. It's super cool, and right now I want you to go ahead and add it to your phone if you like to buy race car parts. Just type in Motion Raceworks, and the number is 563-202-6015. So again, 563-202-6015. Add that to your phone. You'll thank me later. Back to today's video. Hey guys, welcome back to another Tech Tip Tuesday. Today we are going to talk more along the maintenance side of things. It doesn't get covered very often, so here we go. So today's episode is talking about fuel filters. A lot of people build new fuel systems and completely forget or check out when it comes to changing fuel filters, and it can be one of the most crucial pieces to a proper working fuel system. Believe it or not, I think I've made a video on this before, the dirtiest your fuel system will ever be is when you first put it together. In addition to that, you need to have regular maintenance for your fuel system and your fuel filter cleaning. There's a couple different types of filters out there on the market, and the most common that we sell and see are a stainless mesh pre-filter and a micro glass post-filter. So the pre-filter is going to be 100 micron, which means it's going to block up to 100 micron particulate. That's your bigger stuff that's coming from your fuel cells. Because it's basically sucking through that pre-filter, the pump is, you don't want to close that up with a 10 micron. And the 10 micron is basically there to protect your injectors from all the really small particulate. Your injectors are really subject to small particulate getting in them, and that will cause a whole host of problems. So that's the ultimate goal of that. The problem with the 10 micron is it's a very small microglass filter. That means it basically is a bunch of fiberglass type of material that's woven together, and just regular stuff that you can't even see with your eye will clog it up over time. So we actually have a pretty regular maintenance schedule on that stuff. And like I said before, the dirtiest your fuel system's ever going to be is the day you put it together. All of the assembly dirt, the dirt from storing the hose in the factory that the company makes it in, our warehouse, your shop, from cutting it, from assembly, everything in between. It's really a good idea to change that within the first month of putting things together and running your vehicle. One of the key things is to be preventative maintenance. But another thing is recognizing the symptoms of a clogged filter, because believe it or not, a clogged filter can actually ruin a fuel pump. You wouldn't think trying to push through a filter would be bad enough on a really powerful fuel pump to ruin it, but not only will the microglass post filters basically turn inside out and become almost a solid object to where they can flow zero, and think about flowing 3, 5, 10 gallons a minute of fuel through something that's trying not to. So basically, there's a few different ways you can recognize this. Audibly, if you have a good ear, you can actually hear the fuel pump start to change pitch. It'll almost sound like when you're initially priming it, it'll just start to bog down. If you're good enough, you can hear that and you'll notice it. Another one, you can actually tap into the wire going into the fuel pump, and you can see and measure the amount of amperage draw that is pulling. A clogged filter will start to draw a lot more amperage. And the third one, you can see in your tune-up, your engine, if you have an EFI system that's aftermarket, it will start commanding a lot more duty cycle, especially if you have closed loop or self-tuning. It's going to command a lot more duty cycle all of a sudden in an area and places where it never did before. You'll basically just see it try to use the injector duty cycle to make up for the loss of flow because of the clogged filters. All right, so we have removed both filters. This one is the pre-filter, it's 100 micron, and this one is a post-filter, it's 10 micron. So interestingly enough, the 100 micron pre-filter has actually quite a bit of dirt and debris inside of it. I mean, this is from filling up your tank, stuff inside your tank from manufacturing, anything else along the line that has returned from the rest of the fuel system. I don't know if you can see, there's even like some pieces of fuzz and stuff in there. But when I say interestingly enough, this isn't the filter that's causing the problem. This 10 micron filter, which is, you know, it's good for injectors. It keeps the very small particulate out, and that allows the injectors to function properly and not have issues. Especially with ethanol and methanol, this microglass filter is very necessary, and that's the only style you should run. If you find a paper 10 micron filter, don't run it with ethanol, methanol. The style of fuel will just cause instant gummage, and it just won't work. These ones are made to work, but they're not able to be cleaned or anything. You have to actually just replace them. The microglass is kind of like a fiberglass, I guess, with pores, and eventually all that microscopic stuff builds up in there, and it just, you know, locks up. No longer can you flow through it. And this was apparent because when I unhooked this thing, fuel came out of one side, but it didn't backflow out the other side. So I can tell it's very backed up and very clogged up. So we're gonna go ahead and replace this. One of the intervals that Aeromotive says is replace this 10 micron every 6 months at least. When you put a new fuel system together, because it's always the dirtiest it's gonna be, replace it within a month or so. That'll give a little bit of time for all the stuff from assembly to get trapped up and caught up in it, and then immediately change it so that you don't have to worry about this clogging issue. So these are the exact same filters that we have in our Extreme Street fuel system, and that we commonly sell with our 5, 7, and 10 gallon a minute pumps if you have a spec out a custom system, as well as some mechanical stuff. So it's always good to have a couple of these in the trailer. I always keep a couple in my toolbox, and it's very simple to change them. If you guys aren't real familiar with the fuel system on my car, I made a video about it, but these check valves really make switching fuel filters really easy, because you turn it off and no more fuel can come out. So whether you have a full tank or if you have a partial tank, you can basically stop the fuel. So you just get a little bit of fuel, drain it into a bucket, and then when you're done, you turn it back on and fire everything back up. So changing this is as simple as popping this off. It's got a little O-ring inside there that presses on here, and putting a new one on. They also give you a new O-ring, which especially with ethanol, methanol fuels, where the fuel is actually going to dry out that O-ring, I suggest changing that O-ring. I'm going to, even though I run race gas, just a good preventative measure, because this thing might not be giving out now, it might give out later, and what'll happen is it'll just start leaking uncontrollably, and of course you won't be able to find this O-ring. This fuel filter has actually been out to dry for quite a while. Maybe it's not completely dry, but you can actually see big time the color difference. I believe you can anyways. This one's quite a bit darker. This is a used one, and this is the new one. So I think it's dry enough where that shouldn't be causing what's dark, so that would pretty much indicate a lot of, you know, the residue and the type of particulate that it's catching and how dirty it actually is. All right, another thing you want to do is make sure that the flow on here is in the right direction when you put it back on. If you take the whole filter off to change the filter inside, that's a common problem. You'll flip it around and then you'll have issues. You're gonna be too much better off than where you started, so make sure that arrow's going the right way. All right guys, so I hope this helps you. Regular maintenance of fuel filters is definitely appropriate. I know I replaced the pre-filter with a new one, but you can actually spray those out with brake clean. Just make sure they're not damaged or anything like that. The post-filter, the microglass absolutely has to be replaced. Throw a few of them in your toolbox, in your trailer, whatever. It's a good maintenance schedule, and it will save and protect your expensive fuel system, because we all know how expensive modern day fuel pumps and fuel systems are, and we want to maximize things and keep it operating, because nobody likes to show up to the track, have a clogged fuel filter, have to go home, not be able to race. Thanks for tuning in. If you have comments or questions, drop them below. That's how we get ideas for the next Tech Tip Tuesday. We'll see you guys later. Thanks for tuning in.